Welcome everybody to Red Lipstick Diaries podcast. And I'm joined today by my special guest, Merlijn Wolsink. And
Fabulous.
thank you. And where are you living right now?
I am currently living in The Hague, which is in the Netherlands, in Europe, for our international friends. Yeah, on the other side of the pond, where you are.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I'm happy to connect with you. And I love having different people's perspectives on dating, breakups, and like what's really going on and what kind of tools we use to explore greater possibilities in this area, because for so many people, it just doesn't work. So would you like to give a little background about yourself? And
Yes, of course. I come from theater. Actually, I have a theater background. I've been on stage for at least 10 years as a professional dancer, singer, actor, various like Broadway show productions in the Netherlands and Europe. And that like working with my body and all of that led me also to New York. So I like prior to working with Access Consciousness, I already had a very big, network. It was so and had the pleasure to meet so many people and work with so many different people and bodies also. Then I got more into like the self-development energy work, because I found that that was such a big like haze, for me, like what the hell is actually going on. And then I found the tools of Access Consciousness and was so inspired. I just wanted to share it with more people, in whichever way I could and can. So, and as well, as I'm an Access Consciousness facilitator now, working on a very broad level, mainly like energy management, energy creation, a lot of things with bodies, sex, people and their psychic abilities, so to say. It's like like how I like to jokingly say this, like I kind of like teach the psychic to be really psychic and actually be practical. Be practical with it. Like so many people are just all like these psychic satellites, picking up all these energies all the time and wondering where it all comes from. So that's been like a great joy of like 8 years already. So yeah. And still in theater. I have a drag persona also, Miss Magic Merlot. She had to have some magic. Me being called Merlijn or Merlin, as people call me also.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm grateful for my life and grateful for being with you on your podcast, talking
Oh,
about
that's
the
really
unglassed stuff of business, right?
unglossed. That was something that Gary Douglas said to me a long time ago. He's like, you need to remove the gloss. And I thought, oh, that is cool.
Oh, he said something similar to me. He said, you know what, Mr. Merlin, you need to be a little bit more bad. And I just looked at him like I was terrified. I was like, what does that
You were
mean,
terrified?
Gary? Just a little bit more bad so that it's good. And I was like, wow, okay. So then a whole different adventure started opening up in regards to dating and sex.
Yep.
Also, that's because, a lot of people want to be good and dating and sex and in relationship and, whatever that means in this world. And then I found out that there's so much more if we just lift those judgments. But then we kind of have to also be willing to be what we judge as bad, to have all these possibilities, which actually kind of like just puts everything into question. It has put everything into question for me. So that's what I would love to inspire also, is like really coming from the question, if it comes from dating, if it comes to dating and sex and relationships and the funky stuff and the juicy stuff, so to say. So
For sure. Hey, have you heard that quote? I think it was Mae West. She said, "When I'm good, I'm bad. And when I'm bad, I'm better."
yes, I love that quote. I mean, aren't those quotes like pure gold? I mean, these Hollywood divas, like whether they quoted it themselves or not, like Hollywood is like a whole different thing in itself. But there's so much truth in that. Like we avoid all these all these energies. Like sometimes, like when I go about with dating and relationship and sex, I'm like, what would an animal do? you know what would an animal choose? It's like just this natural wonder. It doesn't really have like, oh my god, I'm bad for sitting on someone's lap. No, it's like, oh my god, there's a juicy lap, let me sit on it.
I love
Like, oh,
that.
like
Yeah,
what do
animals
you
don't
smell
feel
like?
they're like, "Pet me."
Right, exactly. Like I found out I am way more like a cat than I am like some sort of peacock walking around. I'm like more like, oh my god, pet me, caress me more, 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 more. And that's mainly also my body talking. Like I really had to acknowledge that. Like I don't know
Yeah,
about you, but bodies
absolutely.
love to
I'm a
be loved
cat
with
too.
better.
Yeah,
Yeah, are you?
it's like, there's this level of independence and this level of like, pet me here, pet me now, and no, leave me alone now, you know?
Exactly. Now just go it up away.
I
I
like
did the
to swim
musical
cat
Cats.
around and be mysterious.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I got to study cats intensively for the musical Cats. It was one of my first professional engagements. So that was very, I was casted as like the vain, more distant and hautain cat. I think that probably wired me up a little bit for most of my adolescence, so to say. So interesting.
How
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
So tell me, what are some of your favorite questions when it comes to dating and sex?
What would it create if I blank? What would
Mm,
it create? Because we have this great sense of the future and of the present moment also, and those two combined are often a little bit like, what do I listen to, or what am I actually feeling, or what am I aware of? Like a lot of people don't even go to that question. Like I didn't even go to that question. I remember prior having some access tools up my belt and actually living that. So what would it create? Like often there's like it opens up this whole universe of possibilities straight away. But in really trusting that sense, like it it has really empowered me to choose based on the energy. Because when I get like when something looks really nice, or someone looks super good or super hot or super sexy, and I'm already having a hard on, and just want to get it on, get it on, get it on. Like like I never really used to ask a question before. So a question like that, what will it create if I meet up, or if I hook up, or if I with this person? Like what's my future going to be like, basically? Like I didn't really see like this as creation for the future, but actually it is. Like every moment is kind of like just adding to the energies of your life, huh? So when I started like using that question, I started to identify with how many people it was just a more like already up front I could sense like, oh my god, this energy that's going to create for my future is so different than what I would think right now. So that just kind of like blew open my whole mind. And it actually had me acknowledge that I was more drawn to the people that either required facilitation, they were just in so much judgments about themselves. They had a lot of, I would say, judgments about sex, or they would come from a very brainwashed or maybe even religious background. This is no, nothing against religion, though a lot of like energies that people, take with them from their childhood, they can be loaded with judgments, and that often comes about in their being and how they just naturally behave and the energy they are and how they function. And so I was drawn more like as a like a little healer trying to make everyone better, but not even really realizing that. So using that question, like just started like if it would feel heavy, like what would it create if I meet up with this person? What would it create if I have coffee with this person? What would it create? Like, does it open my universe? Does it like make my body feel more alive, or does it give a clunk, or like more of like a more of a heavy feeling of, or a heavier sense in general? Like feeling is usually more in my body, and the sense is more like, what do I know? It's like more, the senses, right? So that actually may be a way that made dating and my sexual reality way more fun, because I was not busy with that other energy all the time, which I used to be super attracted to.
Mhm.
Like, I know about you, but I know a lot of us have like these healing powers that we're not even really that aware and cognitive of. Like we don't even realize we're
Right.
not really received education about stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah. I remember learning in the foundation about sexual healer and being a sexual healer. And when they were talking about like some of the things that you would experience when you're not acknowledging that that's what you are, excuse me, I was like, oh my God, like that was my whole life growing up and dating. Like I always felt like a Mack truck hit me in the middle of
yeah,
the night. I could never
thank you.
sleep, and they felt great. And I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, why do
You
you feel so good and I feel terrible after a date
God,
like that?
is
Why
this
am I
really
stuck?
what they have a good time? What's going on?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, that was really cool to acknowledge, and then you have a different choice. So I want to ask you though, because a lot of times we decide because somebody's attractive or because we've already gone to the conclusion that yes, it's going to create something great because you're going to get what you think you want. Um, do did you have a way to train your muscle of awareness to get to that perception of what's actually true and not the predisposed decision that, of course, this is going to be fun because I'm going to have sex or
Yeah.
whatever?
Yeah, I would say first of all, noticing that the story you want to tell yourself up front. Like I have to be like everything you just said, basically. Like first acknowledge that, oh, like I'm already thinking that, I'm already, but it can also be a reality that's already created that you just take with you from your past. We have some great clearing tools in Access Consciousness, which I use, you know, for that personally. You can also just kind of like say like, okay, everything I've decided about, all of this, or how this feels about this energy, about this look, about this type of body, about this type of person, I just, chuck it out of the window, or release those ideas and energies. Because when I say energies, like it's so much more than we can even think of, like, because it's like we're energetic beings, so in that we always have an internet energetic interaction, but also an energetic attraction. And if there's a lot of like fixed ideas or fixed points of view or fixed judgments, even like they kind of like tend to find each other just very naturally, on automatic pilot. So just having that, just be for me, knowing this was already kind of like, oh, so that's what's happening. Like, quote happening, because we are, the creators. So when it's happening, there's just like a bit of unconsciousness, and I think people just have a little bit
Just a little.
just a little bit of unconsciousness or anti-consciousness, like, no, I rather, have my sexual stupidity than my sexual power. um but just acknowledging that, I was like, oh, it just opened my world. It's like, oh, so that's why I'm constantly drawn to these type of guys and girls that I'm just busy with, like, afterwards. Like, I'm just struggling, like, taking that energy through my life. They're not super nice to be with, actually, but still they turn me on. Well, that's kind of like that reference from the past, the stuff that I was just that I just gotten used to. So just noticing that all the time and just keeping on practicing. Like, no, I just took a couple of years also to practice. I was like, I had to get my know myself. I wanted to get to know myself again, and what I could create that was beyond the dating and sex box that I had been living.
I think
And
that's a really big key is getting to know yourself and what really what you truly desire. Because I think a
yeah,
lot of people are distracted in the looking for all of that in someone else instead of
yeah,
being there for themselves.
yeah. And I realized also that box that I was just talking about is where most of people stay their entire life. And then they get unhappy, their body gets sick because it's not getting like the energy and the attention, the contribution it requires, or that it's just asking for to live. I mean, there's so much generative energies in dating and sex. There's so much playfulness if you just allow it to be there. It's like coming from the questions like, what would it create? Would it be fun? Will it be easy? Will I learn something? Like, I go by those questions also,
Mhm.
the I would say the 6 or 7 questions. Will I learn something, or will it make me money? Because your body is, through your body, you're in this reality. This may be a bit funny to connect sex to money for a lot of people. Yet, it's an energy. Every energy you choose, like whether it's a coffee date or it's a one night stand or, a long term relationship, it will kind of like create or kind of like, how do you say that? Decay the
Mhm.
energy of your life, and also the liveliness of your body. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Sometimes it even does it like partway through. So let's say you start off asking questions and you find somebody that is generative and is contributing and is creating money for you and all of those fun things. But then at a certain point, it changes. And so we have to continually be in the question, is this still working? And what else
yeah,
is possible? And can we change it?
yeah, yeah, totally. Like that is like a really creative way to be, also destroying and uncreating your relationships to people up front. It's something that I do, like, before, just saying those exact words before I meet people, before I, that's not even like, a business meeting could be, you could consider a business meeting a date, or even a sex date.
Right.
Because it like, it doesn't involve, the physical sexual aspect of it, but it involves all these other energies which are, actually gonna, like, give you more life and living or less. And sometimes there's stuff that you could look at, like I had to look at all that stuff because I chose to. I just wanted to create um a sexual reality that was not only fun but also um one that would empower me and everyone that I would be with. Like, if you have sex, like, what if both parties would, so to say, get better? Like, they get more out of it. They feel better. It can be a little intense because it can be highly transformative if you start really getting into, people that for me also kind of like function like an animal. I don't know. So that's the kind of like the people that I like for like I enjoy sex with, you know. It's like, you know, kind of like you can call them brainless, but you know, when you actually get going, you just notice this sense of presence. And that's actually what I've gotten to through all these questions. Also having dates that were just kind of like, when I thought I was when I was already using the tools, and there was still something for me to acknowledge or for me to receive. So it was actually, even though the date wasn't fun, or even though the sex wasn't all that, you know, amazing, so to say, that was still kind of like something that I could acknowledge about, oh, this is what I'm like drawn to, or to actually go into questions like, oh, what did I facilitate for this person and for myself?
Yeah.
So
Sometimes when that occurs, what I get is that they thought that it was going to be something that they were projecting, and they weren't willing to go beyond that. And so for us, like, it doesn't work if you're not willing to play and to go beyond certain boundaries
yeah, yeah,
energetically or whatever. I like how you said that you destroy and uncreate the relationship before you even meet.
yeah,
That
yeah,
helps clear out all these expectations that so many people show up with.
yeah, yeah.
That's
You,
brilliant.
yeah, and you clear the space not only for yourself but also for that other person, because through energy you're already connected. Say you were connecting on a dating app, or you were, you know, already kind of like, you know, crossing eyes in the coffee shop or on the hallway, or you know, whenever that will be possible again. It is a great way to notice if it's some sort of like past energy driving you to meet, or if it's really kind of like, um, wow, a possibility that's going to open not only your future but maybe also theirs. And that's what I found to be like such a great gift in dating and sex, is that it is life changing if you allow it to be creative, and if there's like not a lot of proving or judgment. Is like you can have it and you can do it, you can choose it for the joy of being alive and living and having a body. Kind of like, you know, how amazing is it to like I want to say share your body with someone and have the same in return, you know, like it's one of the I would say the most magical things that, yeah, that can create so much change and happiness. And like right now I'm dating a guy, and it's actually been for for 6 weeks already. Hear me talking. For 6 weeks already. And it's
This is a new
um
thing.
oh well, we all have our life choices, right? So and I'm noticing not even the like also this is really, and I have to acknowledge this, come from the questions like, okay, what person can empower, and like what person and what energies can inspire and empower me to be greater than, you know, I can even imagine. And
Yeah.
then those questions get to work, and they, you know, you might, you know, come against some hurdles and some energies that don't allow it, or something you were drawn to that you could now make a different choice with. And it actually showing up that I'm like, wow, I don't have to filter myself. I can actually talk about access and also have sex, and not just like plain sex, but like amazing, wild, and creative, and animalistic. And what I mean with animalistic is like, you know, how do you see animals, you know, play with each other? It's very, very natural, very
Kind of
kind.
like tango, you know, where they're engaged energetically. It's not
Yeah.
just, you know, getting
Mm.
together, but
Yeah.
there's an engagement and energetic play involved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that engagement is just wonderful. And I'm like, okay, what else is possible? So also getting psychologically like, yeah, intimate used to be kind of like, oh well, we'll leave it to sex and physical. That's all cool. But even through that, we met each other through like a pretty wild dating app. So you kind of like
Well, it's
already
cool
know.
that like you ask the question before you meet the person to create the kind of energetic contribution that you would like to have in your life. And that's just a completely different way of dating and and choosing a partner for play. So
Totally.
I love that. It looks like we're winding down to the end of our time, but I really love the questions that you brought up, and we'll probably have to do this again because it was really fun to chat with you. Do you
Yeah.
have any parting words for our audience?
Any parting words? Yeah, I would say, like, stop fixing the dating and sex problems and start asking questions to create the future. Because, what is actually possible when you start living from the question? It might be like you're in a plane that's a bit turbulent, but eventually those wings will soar. And, things will start changing and showing up in ways that, might even surprise you. And thank you for listening. And Julie, thank you for having me.
Beautiful. Thank you.